After hours. Chapter 1. At 1:17 a.m., the executive floor of Vale Group was almost completely dark. The trading division downstairs still glowed in scattered pockets because analysts under 30 treated sleep like a personal failure. But the 49th floor, the private executive level wrapped in glass and silence high above Manhattan, had gone still hours ago. Only 2 offices remained lit. One belonged to Roman Vale. The other belonged to someone who clearly did not understand how unreasonable this company was yet. Roman noticed the second light the moment he stepped out of the elevator. He stopped walking. The motionless quiet of the corridor sharpened around him. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city in silver and black, rain streaking softly against the glass while downtown traffic moved far below like veins of light. The building's overnight ventilation hummed low enough to feel more than hear. Most people avoided staying late on executive floors. Even senior staff preferred not to linger unless necessary. The atmosphere alone discouraged it. Too much money, too much pressure, too much awareness that every decision made here affected markets before breakfast. Roman loosened the knot of his tie slightly as he stared toward the unfamiliar office light at the far end of the corridor. Claire Donovan, junior financial analyst, 26. 3 months at the company. He remembered because he remembered everyone. Not personally, not emotionally. Roman simply believed information was leverage, and leverage prevented surprises. Claire Donovan had graduated near the top of her class from Columbia while working 2 jobs. No family connections. No prestigious internship pipeline. Student debt large enough to qualify as catastrophic. Formerly employed at a mid-level consulting firm that collapsed after an SEC investigation she had not been involved in. One of the cleanest resumes he'd seen in years. Also one of the most exhausted faces. Roman started walking again. His office sat at the end of the hallway, larger than some Manhattan apartments, all black stone, smoked glass, and precise architectural restraint. The skyline spread behind his desk in impossible panoramic detail. Normally, the view calmed him. Tonight, it only reminded him he'd been awake for 20 hours. He dropped a stack of acquisition reports onto the desk and rolled tension from his shoulders. The Singapore deal was becoming hostile. 2 board members were leaking information to the press. Someone inside the company had forwarded confidential projections externally sometime within the last 48 hours. And tomorrow morning, he had a breakfast meeting with investors who expected him to look untouchable. Roman poured himself a glass of water instead of whiskey. Small victories. He crossed back toward the windows, gaze drifting once more toward the glow down the hall. Still there. Most junior analysts left the building before 10. The ambitious ones stayed until midnight. Staying past 1 in the morning meant one of 3 things: incompetence, desperation, or obsession. He disliked the first, understood the second, respected the third. Before he could reconsider the impulse, Roman left his office again. The corridor lights activated softly as he walked. Claire's office door remained partially open. Through the narrow gap, he could see multiple monitors lit with spreadsheets and data models. Shoes discarded beneath the desk. Hair twisted up messily with a pencil. Sleeves rolled to her elbows. And a half-empty bag of vending machine pretzels beside her keyboard. Roman leaned once against the doorway. You know the building cafeteria closes before midnight for a reason. Claire startled so violently she nearly knocked over her coffee. Oh my God! She caught the cup just in time, breathing out sharply before looking up at him fully. For half a second, genuine panic flashed across her face. Not attraction. Not awe. Panic. Interesting. Then professionalism snapped back into place so quickly it was almost impressive. Sorry, she said immediately, sitting straighter. I didn't realize anyone else was still here. Roman's gaze moved across her screens. You're rebuilding the Darnell projections. Her expression shifted carefully. The file corrupted. I know. A beat passed. Claire hesitated before adding, I thought it would be easier to fix it tonight than explain tomorrow morning why half the valuation model disappeared. Most employees, Roman knew, would have emailed IT and gone home. Most employees did the minimum necessary to avoid blame. Claire Donovan was reconstructing a $600 million acquisition model manually at 1 in the morning. He stepped farther into the office. How long? I started over around 8. Roman studied the screen more carefully. The formulas were clean, structured correctly, no shortcuts, no lazy patchwork. His attention narrowed. Who taught you to model like this? Now she looked confused. My professor at Columbia? Mostly. No, Roman said calmly. This is hedge fund formatting. Claire blinked once. My roommate's ex-boyfriend worked in private equity. He used to complain about analyst formatting standards constantly. Something dangerously close to amusement tugged once at Roman's mouth. So you learned from overhearing someone complain? I learn from overhearing most things. The answer arrived without flirtation or self-consciousness. Just honesty. Roman found that unexpectedly disarming. Claire finally seemed to remember who exactly was standing in her office because tension returned visibly to her shoulders. You probably need this room, she said quickly. I can move downstairs. I don't need your office. Oh, silence settled briefly. Up close, she looked more tired than her employee photo suggested. Faint shadows beneath intelligent brown eyes. Concentration lingering in the set of her mouth. There was nothing overly polished about her appearance tonight. No calculated elegance. No executive floor perfection. And yet Roman noticed her anyway. That irritated him immediately. He was accustomed to attraction existing as a manageable biological fact. Temporary. Compartmentalized. Easily ignored. This felt less convenient, because it wasn't primarily physical. It was the focus, the stubbornness, the fact she'd stayed. Roman glanced again at the pretzels beside her keyboard. That's your dinner? Claire followed his gaze and looked vaguely embarrassed. Technically my second dinner. That's worse. It was a very demanding bag of pretzels. The dry seriousness of the response caught him off guard. A soft laugh almost escaped him before years of self-control suppressed it automatically. Almost. Claire noticed anyway. Her eyes widened slightly, like she hadn't expected him to possess facial muscles capable of humor. He should leave. Instead, Roman heard himself say, "Wait here." Claire looked startled again. Okay. Roman walked away before the impulse could become regrettable. The private executive kitchen remained stocked because billionaire insomnia was apparently part of the compensation package. 5 minutes later, he returned carrying 2 coffees and a paper bag from the all-night cafe across the street the security team occasionally ordered from. Claire stared at him when he placed both on the desk. You left the building? It's 30 feet from the entrance. You're the CEO. Yes. You got me food personally. Roman sat in the chair across from her desk with measured calm. You're rebuilding a broken acquisition model at 1:30 in the morning. I'd prefer you not pass out halfway through. Claire looked at the bag cautiously before opening it. Her expression changed instantly. You brought actual food. You sound surprised. There are people in this building who expense $12 sparkling water but think analysts can survive indefinitely on caffeine. Roman said nothing to that because she wasn't wrong. Claire pulled out a sandwich slowly, like she still suspected this might somehow be a test. Thank you, she said finally, quieter now. The sincerity in her voice landed somewhere inconvenient inside his chest. Roman ignored that too. You didn't ask IT for help. They said recovery might take until tomorrow afternoon. So you decided to redo everything yourself. I didn't want to be the reason the morning meeting failed. Roman held her gaze for a long moment. Most employees protected themselves first. Exceptional employees protected outcomes first. There was a difference. How much do you know about Darnell Biotech? He asked. Claire swallowed quickly after a bite of food. Enough to know we're overpaying by at least 7% unless the Singapore expansion projections are accurate. Roman went still. Very slowly, he set his coffee down. Claire realized what she'd said approximately 1 second too late. The room became very quiet. Rain tapped softly against the windows behind them. Finally, Roman asked, "Who told you about Singapore?" No one. Her voice tightened. I just noticed projected infrastructure scaling in the embedded forecasts. You inferred an international expansion strategy from spreadsheet metadata? Claire stared at him carefully now, as if unsure whether she was in trouble. Yes. Roman leaned back slightly in his chair. For the first time all day, exhaustion gave way to something sharper. Something far more dangerous. Interest. Real interest. And when Claire Donovan looked at him across the glow of computer screens with nervous intelligence and absolute honesty, Roman realized two things simultaneously. First, she was far more valuable to this company than anyone above her had recognized. Second, he was already making the mistake of wanting to know more about her.